But yeah, it's the one thing I will have to say is, look, I'm gonna be very real here. Um, this was a game that kind of showed what we're going to see for the rest of the season. Like this is a game, like this is one of those games, and there was plenty of them last year as well. There was plenty of them last year where Steph White was where she comes into the game experimenting, and even if it's disastrously bad, isn't going to adapt. Like isn't going to adapt at all. If it's not working. So the Indiana Fever have not switched everything all year. They have not switched everything all year, and they went out and switched everything for 40 minutes. Like they switched everything in like for 40 minutes, and it didn't work for one of them. It did not work for a single one of the of those 40 minutes. And they kept doing it. So it got to the stage where you've got Golden State, who, as the game went on, adapted better and better to what the Fever were doing. To the extent where if you watch Golden State at the end of that game, their offense, I shit you not, their offense was, we are going to run a high pick and roll. We are going to get Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell switched on to Kia Stokes, and we are going to escape dribble. Because the Indiana Fever, I'm not joking with this. So, like, they soft switched for an entire game. Like, they didn't hard switch once. They didn't try to force a dribble. They soft switched for 40 minutes. Like, it is concerning. Like, I don't think I've seen, like, it's something that obviously Steph White wanted to try out. And I think she's confident enough that this team's going to make the playoffs, because they win this game if they play honest in the fourth quarter, which is kind of crazy. But like literally, this is all they did. So Burton would have the ball here. Let's just say Kelsey's guarding her. Kelsey's guarding her here. It's Kia Stokes coming and setting a screen here. And Aaliyah's guarding her. Aaliyah. So you would think there'd be some form of hedge and recover, fight over, go under or something. But no, this is literally what they did. Aaliyah, does she A, hard hedge to try force Veronica Burton into a back dribble? Do they blitz? Do they do anything? No. Aaliyah just stands here. Soft hedges while Kia Stokes runs here, and Kelsey Mitchell gets this size of Kia Stokes, and suddenly she's caught on the inside. Caitlin Clark picked up 2 fouls doing it. Like, they soft switched, which meant that the ball handler could easily just throw the ball in there. So whether it's Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark, they're fucked. They were fucked. And it didn't make sense. Like, so all they basically did was they just went side to side to side to side to side, running pick and rolls with, and not even a pick and roll, just running screens. They were exchanging via screens. That's all they were doing. They were just all Valks were doing. They didn't run any offense. They just exchanged via screens until they got a matchup they wanted, which in most cases was Veronica on Caitlin, Gabby on Caitlin, Veronica on Lexi. Lexi can't guard anybody either. So basically, all they did was they got into a position where they felt like they had a mismatch and they went straight to the basket. They just exchanged. They didn't do anything. And Nakase's smart enough to realize, and she's like, we're going to, like, we don't need an offense. We can just walk into switches. Which is why I stand by this. I feel like the Aces game last year, when Stephanie White tripled and quadrupled down on running their sets. If you guys don't remember last year, they played the Aces, and Stephanie White tripled down on running the sets they were running. So they were running all these like guard to guard actions and stuff, but the Aces switched everything in the second half. So basically, all that was happening was the Aces decided, because they were switching everything, I can't remember who it was they put on Caitlin. It might have been Kia Stokes. It was a big on Caitlin, basically. It was either Kia Stokes or like fucking Kirsten Bell. But it was a big they put on Caitlin, and then they put a small on Aaliyah Boston. So they would just switch the screen, and whatever they would do is they would end up switching screens. But Caitlin would get, I can't remember who they had on Kelsey. No, Kirsten Bell's on Kelsey. So Caitlin would automatically get the switch on to Kirsten Bell, and then they would run another action and to allow them to switch back. And I'm like, the Fever are literally all they have. The Fever in the first phase of their offense is getting the matchups they want, and then they are undoing it because they're trying to run their sets. And that is the Steph White regular season problem. Steph White doesn't do this in the playoffs. It is the the Fever are a team where, like, Steph White didn't do this to end last season either. As long as she feels the Fever in the playoffs, she's going to do things to prep for the playoffs. The Fever didn't run an offense today. They ran in circles. Today. And they almost beat the current number 1 seed Valkyries after this game, tied number 1 seed. And I'm going to be real. When it comes to Steph White, there's method to the madness. Like, look, if you look at this game in isolation, this was a disaster of a coaching performance. And I'm going to be real. This was a Steph White disaster of a coaching performance. I'm not saying she tried to lose the game. If she tried to lose the game, she wouldn't have called a really good play for Caitlin Clark at the end of the game to get her a good look. Kia Stokes just got a hand on that, who was exceptional, by the way, on the defensive end. But it really did feel like this was if we lose doing this, we lose doing this. This game is inconsequential. That it's like we're trying to get to the playoffs. And in the WNBA, I can kind of see that attitude because if you look at the league, the Lynx and the Valkyries are the top teams. A lot of people predicted neither of them to make the playoffs. The Fever are currently tied with the Aces. So it's not like the Fever are doing badly. They're ahead of the Liberty. No, they're tied with the Liberty. They're tied with the Aces. They're tied with the Wings. The Wings are 5-3. They're 1 game behind the Wings. Or they're half a game behind the Wings. So the teams that you expect to be in around the playoffs, Fever are there. And to be honest, when it comes to tape, especially if you're a coach like Stephanie White, she's not going to bring someone out in the playoffs. She's probably not going to bring the switch everything's defense back for a long time. Because it's very clear when it came to the Fever that the refusing screens, even when Caitlin went berserk at Breanna in January because of miscommunications, it wasn't working. What the Fever were running defensively, scheme-wise, wasn't working. They tried something new and it failed miserably. They gave up 90 points to a terrible offensive team. It failed miserably. And that's the problem when you have bad individual defenders and you play passive defense. That shit can happen. That shit can really happen. But yeah, I'm not concerned. And I know there's going to be a lot of people breaking down the defense, especially, and the offense today and be like, Stephanie White needs to go. Stephanie White's not incompetent. She's not incompetent. It would take and I'm not joking. It would take a completely, not even incompetent pro coach. It would take a completely incompetent coach in general. It would take someone that's never watched a sport of basketball in their life to not make any adjustments. Because it was clear in the first half they were doing what they could to, no matter where they tried to hide Caitlin, just get Caitlin on Burton. And it's worst case scenario, Caitlin trying to play good defense is going to lead to a foul quite a lot because Veronica Burton's so aggressive. So Caitlin either gives up a layup or she's in foul trouble. And she was in both in this game. So yeah, it's it's one of those things where it happens. I think every Fever game is broken down with a microscope, and I think the wins and losses, every one of them kind of gets talked about more. But I don't know what's a better way of going about it when you're Dallas and you're playing every single game like it's game 7 of the finals since game 1 of preseason, by the way. There's no team that tries harder than Dallas. They absolutely. They are the hardest working team, like them and the Valks. These teams play regular season games like they're game 7 of the finals. So I don't know if that is more beneficial than treating regular season games like prep for the playoffs. Because we saw the Mercury or the Liberty do that last year and lose in the first round, where they didn't care about regular season losses, didn't care about regular season records. And I haven't seen too many teams succeed in the playoffs with the attitude of every game doesn't matter. Most of the time, the team that wins titles, whether it's the NBA or the WNBA, are teams that ride momentum going into the playoffs and are winning teams, are teams that get used to winning because winning is contagious. So that's my one big concern from it. But I'm going to be real here. Like there were a lot of decisions that if the sole purpose was winning this game, like the Steph White doesn't make. And if Steph White's entire goal in this game was to win this specific game, she did a horrible job. I don't think that was it. She's not completely incompetent. Like, you would have to be completely incompetent. But yeah, it's one of those things where like it is what it is. I don't know if I think there's gonna be plenty of completely anti Stephanie White rants, but I do feel like she should have game away. Absolutely, I feel like she should have game away. But yeah, that's pretty much it.